Sirens of phone alerts cut through the hospital's hush. As Maya Clarke said, "Why are they tagging me now?" The newborn's cry trembled like a warning siren. A headline flashed with her name and a word that burned. Caleb Hart said, "Don't look, just breathe." Nurses exchanged looks that felt like verdicts. A trending hashtag swarmed, louder than the monitor's steady beep. Maya pressed the baby to her chest and said, "I did nothing wrong." The room shrank as comments poured in. Evan Brooks messaged a statement that sounded polished and cold. Lena Ortiz said, "I'm here, I'm not leaving." A door clicked and felt like a sentence. Ah. The drip kept time with the mob's rhythm. A photo from years ago resurfaced, stripped of context and mercy. Maya said, "They will hate me before I hold my son twice." The nurse adjusted the swaddle and avoided her eyes. Someone filmed in the hallway. The baby quieted, as if listening to the noise outside the walls. Caleb said, "We will fix this." The feed refreshed and darkened. The headline grew fangs. The hallway stank of lemon cleaner and rumors. Maya said, "They have a clip without sound." Caleb said, "They want a villain, and you are easy in a hospital gown." A volunteer wheeled by and avoided their faces. A nurse placed a consent form and said, "Sign if you want privacy." Lena said, "Privacy" died at the loading screen. The baby slept as if the world were gentle. A group chat screenshot surfaced with her name highlighted like a stain. Evan posted a statement that washed his hands. Maya said, "He called me family last week." The monitors beeped with bureaucratic patience. Caleb said, "We will ask the doctor for time." The ward door opened, and a gust carried whispers. Someone laughed at a meme, and it sounded like a knife. Maya said, "I will not apologize for a lie." Lena said, "Then hold that line." The consent form waited like a dare. A nurse said, "Media is asking if you'll comment." The word media felt heavier than the IV stand. Maya said, "Does silence make me guilty?" Caleb checked the door like a guard. Lena said, "Speak only what you can live with tomorrow." A ping announced a sponsor's withdrawal, clean and cold as steel. A cousin texted, "We need space." The room tilted. Maya said, "They prefer a headline to a birth certificate." The baby wriggled and found her heartbeat. Outside, the rain drilled the window. Evan's second statement blamed misunderstandings. "What be?" Caleb said, "He is gutless." The nurse adjusted the monitor and pretended not to listen. Lena said, "We can show receipts." Maya said, "Receipts drown in waves." The hallway phone rang like an alarm clock for a nightmare. The clip finally loaded with the volume on mute. A freeze frame showed Maya in mid-sentence, mouth hard, eyes fierce. Caleb said, "They love screenshots because they do not breathe." Lena said, "Context has no PR team." Piment claimed she mocked another mother, which she did not. Another said normalize consequences. The baby's fingers clenched as if grabbing a lifeline. Maya said, "I asked for safer staffing." The irony split the air like lightning behind glass. A doctor paused at the threshold and said, "Do you need a counselor?" Maya said, "I need a full video and a spine." The doctor nodded, cautious and kind, then drifted away like a lifeboat full of doubt. A lull settled, false and thin. Maya said, "What if the first story wins?" Caleb said, "Then we write a better one." The baby hiccuped, and the sound snapped the air. Lena said, "We gather proof, we name the lie. We call the coward." A notification announced, "A friend unfollowing." Another showed a trending meme of her grimace. Maya said, "They will remember this face, not my name." The rain softened, as if exhausted. Caleb said, "Hold our son and breathe anyway." Maya pressed the tiny weight to her chest. She said, "If they break me, they break 3 hearts." The monitors kept time for a battle outside their door. The room waited for dawn like a verdict. Maya stared at the ceiling tiles as if answers hid there. She said, "I was meant to be proud today." Caleb rubbed her wrist and said, You still can. The baby whimpered, the sound fragile as glass. Lena leaned in and whispered, let them scream outside, we will whisper truth inside. A memory of her first performance drifted in, a stage where applause felt endless. Now her face was a meme. She said, I worked years for dignity. Caleb said, and they cannot delete that. The monitor beeped steady like a stubborn heart. A family photo on her phone glowed dimly. She whispered, my father taught me never to kneel. The baby shifted and found warmth at her chest. The storm outside grew louder, but within that fragile room, humanity pulsed like a secret not yet stolen. The baby's tiny hand curled around Maya's finger. She said, he doesn't know the world already hates me. Caleb kissed her temple and said, he only knows love. Lena straightened and said, love is enough to fight with. The phone buzzed with another headline, a photo stripped from years ago, smile twisted into evidence. Maya said, I used to believe truth spoke louder. Caleb said, not online. The baby sighed, a sound like surrender. She remembered a childhood photo, a girl grinning with missing teeth, innocent of mobs. Maya whispered, that girl did not deserve this. Lena said, neither do you. The air thickened with grief and fragile courage. A nurse paused to check the chart, eyes heavy with pity. Maya said, she pities me more than the labor. Caleb stood like a wall. Lena said, pity fades, loyalty remains. Maya remembered rehearsing with friends, laughter filling basements. Now those friends vanished with silence. She said, why is silence heavier than shouts? Caleb said, because it comes from those who mattered. The monitor beeped soft, and the rain finally broke into sunlight. For a moment the room glowed, as if daring her to breathe again. She whispered, maybe tomorrow they will see me. Lena pressed her shoulder and said, they will. Caleb scrolled through comments, jaw clenching. He said, they write like you are not human. Maya said, maybe I never was to them. Lena said, then we will remind them. A cruel joke trended, her face beside captions that twisted her words. Maya said, they turn breath into poison. The baby whimpered, as if sensing her sorrow. Caleb lowered the phone and said, let me shield you from this. She shook her head and whispered, if I hide, they win. The silence that followed was heavy, but not empty. It held defiance. The doctor entered quietly, setting down a chart. He said, your vitals are stable, but you need rest. Maya said, rest feels like surrender. Caleb said, rest is strength. Lena said, we need you sharp for the fight. The doctor nodded and withdrew, eyes soft. Maya stroked her baby's cheek and whispered, he deserves a mother not broken by lies. Caleb took her free hand and said, then let us build walls around you. Lena said, and windows too, so they see the truth. The room exhaled with them, fragile, trembling, alive. The morning brought a ceasefire of rain and a flood of headlines. Maya said, they clipped 3 seconds and built a gallows. Caleb scanned emails and said, 2 sponsors gone, 1 reconsidering. Lena said, we answer with receipts. A former classmate posted a thread that sounded like a confession wrapped as concern. Maya said, she borrowed my notes for a year. The Ward TV looped a panel where no one knew her. A commenter wrote, she was unfit to hold a child. Caleb said, turn it off. Maya touched the sleeping baby and said, I will not blink. Evan sent a message that sounded careful and clean. He wrote that he supported safety, but not division. Lena said, he is saving himself. The silence after that line felt like a verdict waiting to be signed. The clip multiplied across apps like mold on bread. Maya said, they copy and paste the same outrage. Caleb said, legal wants a timeline. Lena opened folders of messages, each one dated and dull with proof. Maya said, truth looks boring next to fury. A cousin texted that the family chat would be paused. She stared at the word paused until it felt like exile. An old photo surfaced of a rally she attended, cropped to make her a villain. She said, "I argued for safer staffing and bilingual wards." The caption called her a bully. Caleb said, "We add context under every post." Lena said, "We choose one platform and hold ground." The baby yawned as if the world were gentle. The door clicked, and the room felt suddenly smaller. A journalist requested comment with a deadline that felt like a trap. Maya said, "If I speak, they cut pieces." Caleb said, "If you refuse, they fill blanks." Lena said, "We craft one paragraph and publish it ourselves." A friend unfollowed with a statement about values. Maya remembered them sharing cheap pizza on metal steps. She said, "They liked me better when I was not in the way." A rumor claimed she mocked a patient. She said, "I asked for more translators on night shifts." The rumor traveled faster than proof. Evan reshared a thread that praised his leadership while distancing from conflict. Caleb said, "He is writing your obituary with politeness." The baby stirred, and the room listened to that small sound like a hymn. The hospital asked them to move to a quieter room. The word quieter sounded like containment. Maya said, "Are we a hazard now?" Caleb said, "They fear cameras in the hall." Lena said, "We take the room and keep the fight." As they rolled the bassinet, a stranger muttered a curse. Maya said, "He does not know my name." A nurse offered a sympathetic smile that landed like gauze. Another alert announced a sponsor exit with careful phrases about alignment. Caleb said, "They never write the word fear." Maya said, "They spell it with distance." The new room faced a brick wall. Lena said, "Brick is still a surface for light." The baby hiccuped and steadied. Maya held that sound like a lighthouse in a fog. Night pressed its weight against the glass. Maya said, "How many friends remain by sunrise?" Caleb said, "Enough to build a table from the broken wood." Lena compiled a timeline with links, screenshots, and dates. She said, "We publish before dawn." A rumor accused Maya of bribing a supervisor. She said, "I brought muffins to the night shift." The memory tasted like cinnamon and fatigue. Evan emailed a draft for a joint statement that asked her to accept responsibility for tone. Caleb said, "They want you to confess to a feeling they assigned." Maya said, "I will not confess to their script." The baby opened his eyes and blinked like a small star. The clock hummed toward the hour when storms changed direction. The night turned jagged with a new thread. Maya said, "Who leaked my private messages?" Caleb scrolled with shaking hands and said, "They're quoting words you never wrote." Lena slammed her fist on the table and said, "This is planted." A screenshot carried her name, but not her tone. Maya whispered, "They forged my voice." Evan reposted the thread with a careful note about responsibility. Caleb said, "He signs your guilt with his silence." A nurse entered with water and retreated quickly, eyes down. Maya said, "If lies scream louder, how do we survive the echo?" The newborn stirred, but did not cry. Lena said, "We prove the forgery and name the coward." The room filled with a suffocating hush, as if waiting for someone to fall. The hashtag shifted from anger to mockery. Maya said, "They laugh while I bleed." Caleb said, "Mockery is sharper than hate." Lena stacked evidence printouts, her hands trembling but steadying on each page. An influencer mocked Maya's gown, calling her weak. She said, "This is what they call justice." Caleb closed his laptop hard enough to echo. He said, "This is sport to them." A nurse peeked in with hesitation, offering updates on discharge. Maya said, "Discharge into what?" "A crowd with torches." Lena said, "Into fire. We walk with armor." The baby's soft breath was the only rhythm of mercy. Evan appeared at last with a message framed as concern. He wrote, "The community needs healing. Maybe step aside." Maya said, "Step aside from my own child." Caleb said, "He is carving your grave with velvet words." Lena said, "This is betrayal dressed as diplomacy." A memory struck of Evan laughing at dinner, promising loyalty. Maya said he toasted to family last month. Now his statements spread like perfume masking rot. Caleb said, he gains your seat by removing your name. The baby shifted inside, fragile in a world that cheered her fall. Maya whispered, he was never a friend. The enabler revealed himself fully when Evan agreed to an interview. He said, I tried to help her, but she refused accountability. Maya said, he builds his tower with my bones. Caleb slammed his palm against the wall. He said, this is theft, not truth. Lena whispered, he sells betrayal as leadership. Social feeds praised Evan as responsible while she was vilified. A sponsor renewed with him, pulling away from her name. Maya said, he wears my silence like a crown. The baby cried sharp and sudden, the sound cutting the gloom. Caleb bent down to soothe, his hand trembling. Lena said, we will not let him rewrite your story. By evening, the walls felt like they were closing. Maya said, they crown him while they crucify me. Caleb said, the mob loves a savior more than truth. Lena said, a savior who stole the story. Maya held her baby tighter and whispered, he will know my name, even if the world forgets. A new rumor spread that she was under investigation, though no one confirmed it. Caleb said, rumors are fire with no match. Lena said, then we bring water in buckets of proof. Maya looked at the ceiling and said, what if proof drowns too? Silence held the room, heavy and thick, before the baby cooed, a note of hope in smoke. The silence cracked when a stranger messaged Lena with proof. She said, this thread was edited. Maya's eyes widened and she whispered, so they twisted it. Caleb leaned forward and said, show me everything. The screenshots revealed metadata, timestamps misaligned, words spliced into falsehoods. Maya's hands trembled as she said, they forged me. Lena said, the forgery proves intent. Caleb said, this could unravel him. The baby shifted against Maya's chest, a heartbeat of innocence in the storm. For the first time in days, her breath steadied. She said, truth still breathes. The room carried the fragile sound of possibility. Caleb said, this shows the edits. He traced the mismatched timestamps. Maya whispered, he wanted me buried. Lena said, we release this before he speaks again. A text came from Evan demanding silence, disguised as advice. Maya said, advice from the man who cut my throat. Caleb said, we leak the files ourselves. The newborn stirred, eyes fluttering open, tiny innocence staring at them. Maya whispered, he deserves a mother not erased. Lena said, then we light the fire with truth. The storm outside softened as if listening. For the first time the room leaned toward hope instead of despair. Lena drafted a post with evidence lined like weapons. She said, no edits, no filters, just raw files. Caleb nodded and said, we hit publish and hold ground. Maya whispered, will they even believe? Lena said, truth needs no applause, only air. The screenshots glared back at them, proof undeniable. A tremor of fear rose in Maya as she said, if this fails, I am done. Caleb held her hand and said, if this fails, we fall together. The newborn cooed softly as if sealing their vow. The room pulsed with fragile defiance, and the clock ticked toward release. The post went live, a digital scream into the storm. Within minutes, threads argued, comparisons lit the screen. Maya said, they see the cuts now. Caleb said, some still call it excuses. Lena said, doubt is enough to break his shield. Notifications poured like hail, some defending her, others doubling the attack. Maya said, they fight over me while I bleed in silence. Caleb said, let them fight, truth has entered the ring. The baby sneezed, a sound absurdly gentle in the roar of online war. Maya pressed her lips to his forehead and whispered, we are still here. Hours later, a journalist posted the full breakdown, confirming forgery. Maya whispered, someone finally listened. Caleb said, now his mask cracks. Lena said, He will not survive this light. Evan issued a statement too late, stammering in polished words. Maya said, he built his tower on lies, and truth is water. Caleb said, then let it drown him. The baby's laugh, soft and sudden, filled the room like dawn breaking. For the first time since labor, Maya smiled without fear. She said, they tried to erase me, but I remain. The room exhaled, alive with vindication and fragile victory. The journalist's article exploded online, but the mob did not calm. Maya said, they saw the truth yet sharpened knives anyway. Caleb said, they hate losing their spectacle. Lena said, we face them or drown. Outside, protesters gathered with signs, their chants faint through hospital glass. Maya whispered, they want a confession, not justice. Caleb said, then we give them neither. The baby shifted, unbothered by the roar beyond the walls. A nurse slipped in and said, they are filming outside. Maya's pulse raced. She said, if they want me, I will speak myself. Silence fell as if even the walls leaned in. They filmed a message on Lena's phone. Maya said, I will not be erased. Her voice cracked, but her gaze stayed steel. Caleb said, keep it short and strike hard. Lena whispered, every word is a blade. Maya stared into the lens and said, I fought for safer words, not hate. They twisted my plea into poison. Her breath trembled, but her arms tightened around her child. She whispered, you cannot cancel a mother's truth. Caleb's hand brushed her shoulder, anchoring her. Lena said, done. Posted. The upload bar crawled like fate itself. The baby yawned softly, unaware of history, pressing record. The video spread like wildfire, sparks leaping from screen to screen. Supporters commented, we see you, while haters screamed louder. Maya said, the world split in half. Caleb said, half is better than none. Lena said, this shakes his throne. Evan fired back with a live interview, smiling clean and sharp. He said she was unstable, emotional, dangerous. Maya's stomach clenched, rage surging. She said, he sells lies with charm. Caleb slammed the desk and said, charm is his only currency. Lena whispered, then we strip it away. The baby whimpered, the sound softer than the storm's roar. Messages flooded in, some old friends apologizing, others vanishing forever. Maya said, why do they crawl back only when it's safe? Caleb said, because loyalty is expensive in storms. Lena said, we choose who earns return. Another message appeared, an old colleague confessing he saw Evan edit the files. Maya said, the outsider holds the nail. Caleb said, then we drive it through. Lena's hands shook holding the phone. She said, we have his confession. The baby's eyes fluttered open, bright as dawn. Maya whispered, light finally enters the cracks. The confession leaked online, undeniable and raw. Maya said, he cannot escape this light. Caleb said, his empire cracks tonight. Lena said, the mob shifts when blood is theirs. Evan trended now, his name tangled with betrayal. Commenters demanded apology. Sponsors deleted him in silence. Maya whispered, they feasted on me, now they feast on him. Caleb wrapped his arm around her and said, but we still stand. The baby laughed, a sound like bells in rubble. Maya kissed his head and said, let them remember I lived through the fire. The arm outside faded, replaced by the fragile glow of dawn. Dawn seeped into the room like a quiet verdict. Maya said, they cannot unbirth this day. Caleb said, they cannot unmake you. Lena said, press releases are circling like vultures. A final apology from brands arrived, polished and empty. Maya said, they apologized to the crowd, not to me. The baby stretched, a tiny king unfazed by kingdoms falling. Caleb said, we choose the first step, not the first cheer. Lena said, a press conference waits if you want it. Maya touched her son and said, I want peace more than applause. The elevator chimed outside, carrying strangers and stories. She breathed in the morning, steady, scarred, awake. Discharge papers lay like thin armor. Maya said, I walk out and the world is waiting. Caleb said, let it wait. Lena said, we control the route and the words. A news van idled beyond the glass, patient as a spider. Maya said, I will not hide my face. Caleb said, then we walk together. Lena said, I will run interference. The baby yawned, sealing the plan with something sweeter than courage. Maya kissed his brow and said, they can keep the noise. The nurse smiled softly and wished them rest. The door clicked open, and the hallway stretched like a testing ground. Outside, cameras fluttered like startled birds. A reporter asked for regret. Maya said, I regret that safety was treated like scandal. Caleb said, we are leaving. Another voice asked if she feared Evan. Maya said, I fear silence, not men who edit truth. Lena guided them past the lenses, steady as a metronome. Someone shouted that the internet had moved on. Maya said, I have not. The baby slept, a lighthouse in cloth. The wind lifted her hair and set her spine. She stepped into the day and did not bow. In the car, the city slid by like a healing scar. Maya said, where do we go that is not a stage? Caleb said, home, where we decide the script. Lena said, I will handle the calls. A message appeared from the outsider, promising a sworn statement by noon. Maya said, the truth arrived late, but alive. Caleb said, late still wins the race that matters. The baby hiccuped and smiled, rewriting gravity. Maya touched his hand and said, we build slow, we build strong. The skyline softened as if it finally exhaled. The apartment smelled of coffee and new linen. Frames waited on blank walls like questions. Maya said, I owe them nothing, but I owe him everything. Caleb said, then live louder than their edits. Lena said, statement filed, evidence secured, doors locked. Maya held her child and faced the quiet. She said, I am not the headline, I am the mother who stayed. The baby's breath answered like a vow. Caleb whispered, we are here. Lena smiled, small and certain. The room settled. The world outside scrolled on. A final truth rose and took its seat.